high-speed business at a record pace.
Get 70 miles per gallon on this fucker. It's the ship that made the castle.
Too soon. Too soon.
If you leave me now, you take away the biggest part of me.
I might have mixed the cameras up. Now we know because I was just fake singing.
Oh, welcome to the Fast Ones emergency podcast.
The emergency podcast.
Because big news, I saw Karate Kid 3.
Oh no, you got all the way to 3.
No, I didn't. That's not why we called an emergency podcast.
That is very funny though.
Yeah, welcome to the Fast Ones.
Yes.
Mike asked me to come to the studio today because we wanted to discuss some big news.
Some big news. And also, we've already been taking attendance for those of you who are late to the pod today. Kyle is already on it. He says, best intro of all shows and pods. He's already aware of it. And the best part is that, like, before we haven't spoken, I usually write a description for the episode before we start the episode. And I wrote that inevitably we would discuss an 80s power ballad that would best suit the moment.
I already got you.
For today's episode.
If You Leave Me Now
Yep.
by Chicago. Is that Peter Cetera singing on that song?
Correct.
It is.
Yep.
And then he left the band to make the Glory of Love.
The Glory of Love. So
He is
50th
the king. Episode we've referenced that song now in a row. Okay.
Amazing stuff.
We won't punish the fans with more 80s movies references and Karate Kid.
Or will we?
No.
Okay. Max says no.
No. They deserve better.
They do.
Mike, kick us off.
Well, today's the day. The day that none of us ever expected, to be honest.
No, yeah.
I made a joke talking to my dad about it by saying I kind of thought that they would have to dynamite this guy out or that he might have a Pope term as team
life
principal.
appointment.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Christian Horner has been fired or reassigned at Red Bull.
Reassigned.
Because they said he's leaving as an operational.
Yeah.
He's leaving as operational, but he's still under the organization, an employee of the organization.
This makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
None at all.
So Red Bull has axed Christian Horner as team principal.
Correct.
And yeah, a move that we didn't see coming. One, because it's in between races. It's not even summer break.
It's not summer break. It's not. It's a Wednesday. And
it's big news because no team principal has served as long on an F1 team like ever.
I mean, 20 years as team boss, as the guy who actually built the team.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
This is the first time they've had a different team principal in the team's history.
Right. Yeah.
It's wild.
Gunter Steiner was the interim team principal as they took it over, and then Christian replaced him. If you remember from
that's a wild deep cut.
Right.
So now the only two team principals for Red Bull have been fired.
Right. And Henry Wallace made a reel of the two of them in the sky together.
Yeah, it was
which
great.
was more appropriate than we realized in the moment.
And honestly, I didn't see this coming because I always thought Helmut Marko would be let go.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about on the podcast. Yeah. I'm like, this is the guy that they got to leave.
That was the most justified move.
Right. But because like Helmut Marko is insane and old, kind of racist.
Totally racist.
But Christian Horner is the one to go.
Over a thumb picture.
So it's like a racist versus like a sexist or
an innuendo.
Or
which was
unfaithful man.
Right.
Yeah.
Blake and Kyle are going nuts in the chat. Thank you guys for both being here.
Yeah, go nuts in there.
Go ham, and we will tune back and forth in as we can.
Yeah, but Mike, what are your thoughts?
I mean, my initial gut reaction to seeing the news this morning, and especially the timing, seems like kind of that we posted that meme, or we posted that picture on our story where someone called out that the orange Mercedes the week before,
the little Mercedes emblems were all orange.
And
for the Austrian Grand Prix.
And they had orange cars and everything. that seemed.
Were we just in Austria? It was the Silverstone Grand Prix.
Yeah, but before that it was Austria.
Yeah, that's
so at the Red Bull Ring. But it seemed as though that, someone had called out like, ooh, I love a good conspiracy theory that this is like hinting.
Easter egg of possible rumors.
Right. Like with Lewis Hamilton, they made that Heineken or was it, or whatever, one of those drink sponsors made a post that had a 44 car in the post a week before they announced Lewis.
Was Lewis wearing like red stuff before? Or
yeah, he did that a few times.
Yeah. But yeah, Max is from the Netherlands,
right?
Which is just orange.
They love the orange,
and for Mercedes to put orange on their cars, like
just seemed like a super Max nod.
Okay,
so with that in mind. And just also knowing that the team's been underperforming, Adrian Newey left. The Verstappen camp has been loud in disapproval of everything.
See, I didn't know that. I had no idea that Max was kind of like unhappy with Red Bull. I guess like I could have assumed it.
Yeah.
But I did have people like messaging me and talking with me today being like, oh yeah, Max has been unhappy at Red Bull.
For a while.
And has he been unhappy at Christian?
Well,
I thought they were best friends in that.
I mean,
they kind of wanted to be married to each other.
When we started the podcast, they like had houses next to each other.
Yeah,
like that was the rumor was that Daniel Ricciardo was leaving the team because the bromance between Christian and Max was uncomfortable,
crazy tight.
Right? And
didn't he like best man at Christian's wedding or something?
I don't think. I think Max was a little young for that one.
I don't know. Christian likes him young. His drivers.
Yes. That's what we were hinting at. But. The other part of that, is that, Yas had gotten into quite the scrap over, power at Red Bull with Christian. And one of those early fights that really got ugly was when Sergio won in Monaco. And Yas was basically saying to Christian, like, there's only one number one car. Why are you pushing Sergio to win? You should have told him to move aside and let Max win. Which is just... insane. Why would anyone make that request?
Why is a dad yelling at the team?
Right.
Get out of the team room.
Leave. Your son is,
everything about that is insane.
Yeah, he's obviously capable of being a world champion. He doesn't need you here.
Yeah.
But anyways, Yas has been a big point of conflict at the team and has been for a while. So that is something that wasn't exactly new, but one of the things that Max has done has been really quiet about how he feels about the way that he and his dad
very quiet about it. That's why I don't know.
Yeah, but he and his dad have gone at it for the last 2.5 years, and it's been ugly. So the question has always been, where does it go from here? Because Yas was, as we talked about last year, was kind of at the center of that whole like, was he the one that sent the Google Drive folder?
Did he leak the stuff responsible for Christian Horner's whole affair thing?
Right, that whole debacle. Yeah. And it seemed as though that it was timed a little bit like, yeah, that was definitely him or Helmut Marko, who both of them agreed. They didn't really...
Who both were in the text chain.
Yeah. They're listed in the thread in WhatsApp. They just
deleted their parts in it.
They deleted their fingers out of the chat.
They were just sharing fingers with each other, and they didn't know there was another employee, a female, in the chat.
And they were like, wait.
They're like, oh, shoot.
Oh, crap. These are just blurry, wet finger photos. Don't take it wrong. What is going on?
They're like, wait, this could work to our advantage.
Right. Yeah. Wait a minute.
Let's delete all of ours.
Photoshop us out.
Frame Christian.
And just make Christian look like he's sending creepy, wet finger photos.
To just one person.
To just the female staff member. Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's kind of, from what I understand of the situation, that's factual.
Yeah. And you think this is all happened because...
Well, from that point on...
Yeah.
This is what has marked the downfall of Red Bull. We've talked about it forever.
They've been hemorrhaging good employees.
Exactly. The staff that have made the team.
Yeah.
So Adrian Newey is obviously a very obvious exit.
Yeah.
Then Rob Marshall, who is now a big technical figure at McLaren. Jonathan Wheatley, who is sporting director, who is now team principal at Sauber. Got his first podium this weekend.
Heck yeah.
As team principal.
Interesting.
And And, obviously the loss of all the drivers.
Lots of all the drivers. We made a post once going through not just drivers, but there's tons of people.
Right.
Technical directors, amazing legacy members of the team.
Staff members just,
All
like you
gone.
said, hemorrhaging.
It went like a year or two. Just
Right.
like the span is crazy.
And from that point of the controversial text message thread to now, it seems as though that's been the story of Red Bull. It's just hemorrhaging staff
And a second driver that can't drive in the car.
because the car is not built
Car's
for him at all.
insane. The car's insane.
Right.
Yeah.
And recently, Sergio Perez was on a podcast, and in his interview said that Christian Horner's policy was that the only reason that Red Bull has a second car is because the regulations require it. That Red Bull is a one-car team.
Yeah.
And Sergio said that the discrepancy between staff on one side of the garage versus the other is ridiculous.
Really. They have like interns and like
Right.
kindergartners helping out with the mechanics.
Yeah,
And on
they-
the other side, it's just like seasoned mechanics.
Yeah, they've got the Mac Pro Studio on one side of the garage and Crayola on the other.
One side is Snap On in Milwaukee. The
Yeah,
other
yeah.
side is like Hercules, like
It's
all those
Husky.
Harbor Freight brands.
Yeah.
It's just Harbor Freight.
Holt or whatever it is from
Yeah.
Walmart. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. What is the terrible Harbor Freight brands?
I've seen like Cobalt. I think Hercules is one.
Yeah, I'm like I have a
Chicago.
Chicago. I have a Daytona Jack, but Daytona Jacks are nice.
It's yeah.
You can't talk bad on the floor jacks.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I have
all
one
right,
too.
now
I
we're
have
off
one
topic. But anyways, it's just crazy that that's the way that it's been. So we'll say that, Christian's policies have definitely become, they've seen the light of day now. And people are definitely criticizing that. Look, we talked about it forever. And we said that it was a conspiracy, but now Sergio's made it so it's not a conspiracy anymore.
yeah.
That is the way they've run that team. So hemorrhaging staff, they're running a one-car show. The one car is now slipping in performance. Max is doing everything he can to get more out of the car that isn't giving it back. And so he's less and less impressed. It seems like it was only a matter of time before Max left or Christian was going to be at least in some sort of uncomfortable situation with the board.
Yeah. Do you think that a lot of the theories that came out of today when the news broke was that, this must mean that Max is going to Mercedes?
That was my first thought.
That was everyone's first thought.
Right.
Is that still your thought?
So here's my initial reaction was this is a reaction to the news that Max is leaving. Whether that's Mercedes or Aston Martin, I'm wearing my Fernando Alonso cap,
Yeah.
is yet to be seen. I do think that there's still a really good case to be made that Aston Martin are very quietly in the background of a lot of the Mercedes rumors.
Yeah.
And Honda, the power unit that Max has had and won championships with, is going to Aston Martin. Adrian Newey's at Aston Martin. There's a lot of reason for him to still think about that.
Yeah.
But I do think that Mercedes is going to make a really strong case, being the power unit manufacturer and the car.
And
And Toto, his track record was when they took over the power unit regulations of 2014, Mercedes was unstoppable for 8 seasons.
And Mercedes is starting to creep up again in
Right.
the races. They're starting to do really well. The other side of that is that could this have been Red Bull's reaction to Max starting to go to other teams and look for offers? And so they're like, hey, we're making a decision. We are sacking Christian.
Right.
We're going to make this a team that's better for you, so you stay here.
Right.
Is that also something that has crossed your mind?
I mean, it's the tail wagging the dog is what my dad used a metaphor of.
Wow, that is a weird visual.
When the driver is the one who's managing the team.
or
Red-
Joss.
Right, or the dad, which is the flea on the freaking tail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I do think that it's interesting to somewhat like look. We've talked about it. We know all of F1 fandom recognizes Max as one of the best ever.
Yeah.
And
Jensen Button
right,
has said it a lot lately, and I'm like, oh, this is making me rethink Max's skill as a driver.
right,
Yeah.
But Michael Schumacher didn't. No teams were ripping the limbs off of each other to get him. And that's what's happening with Max. The bloodbath over him at this stage is crazy. If the reason that Red Bull fired Christian is a last-ditch effort to get Max to stay, I think the ship has sailed. That's why I think he's already signed somewhere else.
Yeah.
If the opportunity to keep Max was letting go of Christian, they would have done it way before they lost Jonathan Wheatley, Adrian Newey, Rob Marshall. It would have been way before now.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think this is like the first moment for us to see like Max is signed somewhere else.
Really?
That's the way I read it.
I mean, I knew something was wrong at Red Bull when they partnered with Drake to make a clothing line.
Yeah, OVO was the last.
I'm like, what is
straw.
happening at Red Bull? Adrian Newey had already left. Things were falling apart. They were slipping in the points. But I was like, Drake? Don't do the Drake thing. Oh, something's wrong at Red Bull.
Yeah, this is really off the rails now.
Something's got me concerned.
Yeah, I was definitely confused when they broke away from Puma.
I mean, and Max realizes that. I think Mercedes is like, we have been in talks with Kendrick. There might be a chance for a Kendrick Lamar partnership with Mercedes.
Just a little collab.
If you come over here.
He likes Benz's.
I
mean, the truth is Max is going to Cadillac so he can get a black Grand National.
Uh-huh.
Even
F
though
being rational.
Give them what they ask for. Even though that's a Buick. But
yeah.
Ryan, thank you for being here. Ryan is in the chat. Ryan Hong, Blake, Kyle,
Thanks,
you guys
Ryan.
are awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely seems like, for me, I don't own any Red Bull gear.
Yeah.
And that solidified the fact that I'm not going to own any Red Bull gear moving forward until that OVO partnership is done.
I mean, there's been some cool Red Bull stuff. They have their look, their livery, their branding is great.
It's awesome.
The colors are awesome. Just haven't been a fan of the team. I like the drivers.
Right.
I love Daniel Ricciardo.
Right.
And I want to support the Red Bull merch, but I just I've hated the team and what they've been doing.
Yeah.
And I hate what they did to Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah.
Also, love the Mercedes look of the merch.
Yeah. And Adidas.
Really good collab.
Super rad.
Some really great coats.
Right.
Freaking can't stand George Russell.
Yeah, he needs to get out of there.
If anyone was to ever even think I was supporting George Russell, that'd be a huge failure on my end. I could not ever live that down.
Let's just clarify that. Let's clear the air on that really quick. We don't support George Russell.
We don't support George Russell. I don't know if you've listened on this podcast. We would support.
Just want to make sure that's super clear, abundantly clear.
We have made it very clear that we would support George Russell if we could help him out, be cool.
Right.
Because I think we
As
could
a
turn him around.
consultant.
Consultant? Oh yeah, we could turn him around.
Big time.
And yeah, he would start succeeding. But if Max goes to Mercedes, a big opportunity.
Huge opportunity.
To wear some merch supported by Max and Kimmy.
Yeah.
Ooh, I might like that a lot.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And I think Max and Carlos next year for Mercedes. I mean, look, obviously I love to see Carlos there, but I also don't want Kimmy to lose his spot.
Yeah.
But I think another part of this though is to kind of again, this Sergio Perez podcast where he starts kind of talking about how the second car has never really been viable for the team. It also sort of puts Brandon just said George Russell is the hall monitor of F1. Brandon, it's like you listen every week, and I'm not sure if that's true, but that is very much what our theory is as well.
Yeah.
But the funny part about Sergio Perez saying basically the number 2 car only exists because the regulations require it. It shows exactly the conspiracy theory of why Daniel would leave the team, why Sebastian Vettel left the team.
Things that you have been saying all the time.
All these drivers, the second they see the better staff go to the other side of the garage, why would they stay?
Yeah. And you've kind of been pulled over the coals in some of the reels that we've made talking about this theory.
Right.
And it just seems to be very vindicated now.
Oh,
I'll say that for you. I'll stick up for you on that.
I mean, I'll take my glory moment in the hat, son. But
yeah, can you imagine being that second driver and you get called in, you get hired to Red Bull, or you were the number 1, you moved to number 2, like Daniel Ricciardo was in threat of doing.
Right.
And you're like, oh, all the Milwaukee tools are on this side of the garage now?
Yeah. I'm going to Renault. I don't care if they're worse. They're going to make me number 1 driver.
Yeah.
It makes that move makes way more sense in hindsight with that information. Right.
Yeah.
So, but to talk about other factors here, Laurent Mekies is now the CEO. Let me check and make sure that I'm right about
There
this.
was a CEO title thrown around on Instagram with his picture around it,
right,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
CEO
So Laurent,
of Red Bull Racing.
Laurent Mekies is now the CEO of Red Bull Racing.
Yeah.
And Alan Permain is the new team principal of Red Bull.
That guy, the guy who came from Visa Cash App,
Yes.
whatever it is now, Racing Bulls.
Yep.
There was a pic of him today where he was showing him at different
Teams?
eras and different things.
Yeah.
There was like a younger picture of him, looked just like AJ from the Backstreet Boys.
You
I was like, this guy was crushing a certain look at some point in his life.
I mean, he's still got
He's still a good looking dude.
Yeah,
but
he got cool swag.
cool features.
Yeah. Round glasses. He's kind of pulling a Mattia with those.
Yeah, he looks very European.
Yeah, for sure. But Laurent was at Ferrari for a decent stint prior to going to Visa Cash App as team boss, and now he's CEO, which is
Crazy.
it was just crazy. That's a big jump.
That is a big jump. It's like in the F1 movie when the team principal is like, I was at Ferrari. And they're like, what did you do? He's like, I was the counter jack.
As rear jack man.
You're like,
5 championships.
people have to find their way somewhere.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, so Laurent Mekies is going to be CEO, which is a big title. That's higher than the team principal, obviously. And Alan Permain so remember when they let go of they had that big firing squad at Alpine, and I said Alan Permain had been there for like 25 years.
This is ringing a bell.
Yeah. So Alan Permain went from Renault to working at Visa Cash App RB, and now is going to be team principal at Red Bull. So, like, again, to paint the picture that Alpine is ridiculous as a company, the dude they let go is the one that the board just appointed team principal of Red Bull,
That's wild.
one of the top 3 teams.
Yeah.
Alpine, you suck. You suck. You
Well,
couldn't
that
be
was,
clearer
that
with
was before Flavio was in charge.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But when Flavio was in charge, Alan Permain was at the team multiple times. So,
Okay.
but yeah, just crazy. Crazy that he's got a team principal title now.
What a shakeup.
Yeah.
This is wild. Yeah. Now I see why we called an emergency podcast to talk this through.
There's
Because
cool-
I had no idea.
There's
I
a
knew
lot.
that Christian going was a crazy big deal. And now, so let's have fun. Let's do some speculation.
Let's go for it.
Max goes to Mercedes. What's happening at Red Bull?
Well, Christian said Oscar, but Christian's out.
Yeah, that was bad call. Christian. Oscar's not going to Red Bull.
No, he's not leaving.
Yeah, he's number 1 at McLaren.
Yeah. Well, he's number 1.75.
Yeah.
Because Lando's number 1. And I just don't understand how that's the case. But
Yeah,
yes.
it won't be very longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes. Okay.
Red Bull. Now we have potential open seat.
Carlos
Yuki
Sainz.
Tsunoda. You think Carlos Sainz?
I think Carlos is hot real estate. He's at Williams. He's not performing great at Williams right now,
Williams has taken a downturn.
but they've struggled.
They were crushing it at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And who was it? Alex Albon over the radio, or was it Carlos Sainz?
They're
Who was like, the car used to be amazing. What did we do to it?
right. I think it was Alex.
Yeah.
Alex is a little bit more animated over the radio than Carlos is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Carlos is a great resource, a good opportunity, because there's not a lot of experience on the grid outside of him that's going to be affordable or easy to get. And right now he's at Williams, and I know that he said I'm committed to building this team, and but the truth is that if you're going to go to a team that has the resources that Red Bull has, it's not just because everybody's constrained to the same budget, but Red Bull has the facilities. They have everything.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff behind them.
And so it's a lot quicker of a turnaround for success if Red Bull can get it going.
Okay. Carlos Sainz to Red Bull.
That would
George
be my
Russell
guess.
to Williams.
George back.
If he's like getting that seat open.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who's going to take George.
Nah, I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna go to Red Bull.
Yeah. No.
That is the worst brand fit.
That is a really bad brand fit.
And I feel like
Yeah.
Red Bull, that's all they care about is brand fit.
They're very brand fitty.
Yeah.
They're very like optics.
Yeah.
How sexy do we look?
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, Mercedes doesn't care about that at all. Hence, George Russell racing for Mercedes. But I think that Williams would kill to have George back, and he would be great for the role of helping build a team. He's not great as the main driver of a team that wants to win championships. So I think he's great for Williams.
Oh, I mean, there was a brief glimmer that I was like, well, they're going to bring Daniel Ricciardo back. They won't. But what if?
I mean, the other thing is too.
But
is
Helmut
that,
Marko doesn't like Daniel Ricciardo.
No, I mean he don't like anybody.
Christian likes Daniel.
Yes,
and Helmut didn't like Daniel.
Right,
and so I don't see that ever happening.
I think that the other thing is too is that we've still got other seats, and here's where I'm thinking that there's another piece of this equation.
Yeah, what is it?
We have not seen the last of Christian.
Okay,
this guy for whatever reason has been fired between races, not during the summer break, in the middle of the season, and he took a team from nothing to 8 championships.
Yeah.
8 driver championships, right? And some more constructor championships, I think, than drivers.
But it's now one of the biggest teams on the grid.
And they were
a scary team.
They
to go
were
up
Jaguar.
Against. Yeah,
they were nobody before this, and so you're talking about a guy who oversaw the development of a team that got there.
Yeah.
And became one of the top 3 when they were definitely not one of the top 3. Cadillac is foaming at the mouth.
You think Cadillac?
Yeah.
People have been saying Ferrari.
I don't think it's happening.
And people were like, how crazy would that be if Christian and Lewis were going against Toto and Max? I was like, that is a wild switch up.
That is like a weird, like swingers and daybreak thing
it's
again.
like a weird Twilight Zone thing.
Yeah.
It's like a, what's the Superman opposite world?
Max picked up Toto's watch out of the bowl, and that's how they knew that they were going to be at the swingers party.
You know how they have that their drivers dinner now, where like all the drivers eat dinner together at the end of the year.
Yeah.
They do that with team principals and teams, but it's like
gotta grab
keys in the thing.
Grab the keys out of the bowl. But yeah, I think the reason that I think that it's more likely for a team like Cadillac is that I think that Cadillac, they have so much more to gain than Ferrari does. And I don't see Ferrari's not a company that jumps at like a British dude. Like like historically, it's not their move, right?
Yeah.
I think that Fred still fits the bill. And I think that a lot of people still believe that we need the regulation turnover before Fred gets the boot.
Yeah.
We have to see how good the 26 car is before Fred is considered a failure. And so that's my take.
Man, so you think Christian Horner in this world goes to Cadillac? Cadillac brings on Daniel Ricciardo.
Or Valtteri Bottas.
Or Bottas, which would be rad.
And
Perez.
Sergio, or
I mean, he does
Colton
have it.
Herta.
He does. Do you think Perez likes Christian Horner?
I mean,
But what if Christian runs the team the same way, where it's like we have one car?
Yeah.
I don't care about this other car. That's was it Christian's idea to have the one car philosophy?
Here's the difference between being an energy drink company and working with an OEM.
Okay.
I don't think that Christian's going to have the same power he had at Red Bull. So he goes to Cadillac. He's not going to be able to say, we're a one-car team. We have 2 cars because of
It's
regulations.
like make it work with 2 cars.
Cadillac's not going to agree with that.
Okay. Good point.
So I think that there is a possibility that this works out
That's
in a way that they pivot to having a guy who's done it. And
That's
again, that's hot real estate.
Yeah.
I know it's crazy. He just got fired.
Yeah.
As if he murdered someone. Like this Bernie Eccleston said that today. He was like, the treatment of like effective immediately after a guy has done that much.
Yeah.
You would think that he shot someone.
Well, that's, for sure. 100%. That's also kind of how Red Bull handles its employees. The letting go of Daniel Ricciardo was so quiet and out of nowhere.
Right.
That he didn't get the farewell he needed. And they do it with all their drivers and their people.
Right.
So it seems to fit the bill. But yeah, you're right.
The other side of this is also that, as much as I hate to say it, we might see a recreation of Red Bull at Aston Martin. The only reason I think that might not happen is that I could see Adrian Newey being like, I don't really want to work with Christian again.
I just got out of that.
Yeah.
Because Adrian Newey has had some terrible experiences with team principals. He usually doesn't go back to him.
And he didn't really, you and I both read his book. He
Yeah.
didn't really speak ill of Christian.
Right.
And his exit from Red Bull seemed like it was super abrupt and it, out of left field. But I don't know. He didn't really say anything bad about Christian when he left either. There might have been more at play there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, what are the reasons that Brandon says that the 26 car is the Tifosi's Obi-Wan, our only hope?
It is.
It really is. It really is.
2026 regulations. You are only hope. Yeah.
So, but yeah, like, I think that just to go back to talking about Red Bull, there's one other thing that, like, is just a missing piece of that story that I want to touch on. So Dietrich Mateschitz died, 2 years ago? So the guy who co-founded Red Bull was the Austrian side, and then the Thai side was the other guy that founded the company. And Dietrich's favorite sport was F1, and he ended up owning 2 teams. And so this was his vision and his dream. But the second that he passed away, it seemed like the power struggle for the team really got intense. It was like kids fighting over the will.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That, like, no one had written correctly or clearly.
Yeah.
And somehow Jos Verstappen found himself in the midst of that, being like, "What about my child?"
It's like, you have no claim here. Get out of here. Yeah. Wild stuff.
And so that's where I feel like the real, like, avalanche started for Red Bull, and to see it get all the way here and Christian's out of a job mid-season is just...
That's wild.
They won every race but one 2 years ago.
Yeah. And Max won last. Yeah. Wild. That's wild. Okay. Has there ever been a team principal fired midway through a season?
Yeah, Otmar Schaffner.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the most recent one. But yeah, how many Alpine team principals have been fired mid-season? Seems like there's been 9 of them.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Yeah. That was a quick answer.
Bruno Femin, Otmar Schaffner, whatever the other guy was.
Yeah.
There's so many.
But not very likely at teams that are succeeding.
Right.
Yeah.
And Red Bull's probably still... Are they still second in the championship?
I don't know.
Maybe not second. Ferrari might be second in the championship right now.
Because that second car is not bringing in any points. It's all Max.
It's all Max. Yeah.
But Max is up there. Third?
Yeah.
Fourth?
I think he's still third or fourth in the championship.
Yeah. It's a long shot.
Yeah.
But he's still up there.
But he's still competitive.
Yeah. It's not like Williams.
I mean, it's
not Alpine.
As we've stated, it's beyond the car, right? It's that he's making the car there.
Yeah. So yeah, it is crazy to let him go between races, not even at the summer break.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyways, kind of crazy, but I think that the conversation of the teams that we've mentioned are still in the running for some kind of part of the shakeup. Is Aston Martin going to be where Max potentially goes? But is there a possibility that Lawrence Stroll has to sell Aston Martin for that to happen? Because he's not going to take Lance out of the seat.
Gosh, just get Lance out of the seat.
It seems like that's just a reasonable choice.
Right? Get Lance out of the seat.
Right.
Let Max race with Alonso for 1 season, 2 seasons. Get used to the car, and then you bring on a new driver.
Right.
And then you have a nice team where it's like seasoned driver. Max still has plenty of years left.
Right.
Which is crazy. He's a 4-time champion with like 20 years left. I don't know.
Right.
How old is he? 28?
He's 18.
Yeah, he's young.
Yeah.
So it's like you have plenty of time
He's
left
Kimmy's age,
to
I
build
think.
up a team and like help a younger driver like get used to the team and help him out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Get rid of Lance, dude.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Well, and I do see like what happens to Red Bull if Max leaves? Is Yuki Tsunoda going to have a seat? It's like, that's kind of unlikely. And it's not because Yuki's a bad driver, but it's just that Honda is going away. It's going to be Ford next
There's
year.
Yuki's connection.
Yeah.
Wow. So Red Bull's like 2 new drivers, 2 open seats.
Are they going to just
potentially?
wash it completely and start over?
And like Isaac and Liam don't want to go to that team.
No.
They're doing good in the racing bulls. They're doing better than like Red Bull is. What's up? You're laughing at a chat.
Brandon just says the only way Papa Stroll sells is if he can do so at a 30% or 40% profit margin.
He'll get it too.
Yeah, he'll get it.
He wines and dines those deals.
Yeah,
he gets what he wants.
Well, if you listen here,
I get what I want.
if my team is so valuable for you, Lance, can you leave the room, please? Daddy needs big man time.
Alonso, you can kick. Alonso, come in.
Fernando, come sit on my lap. Now, if Aramco wants to own Aston Martin, I'm gonna need at least 50 million more,
He'll get it.
50 billion more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really think he could swing the deal he wants if he wants to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But this is showing one of those monumental shakeups in F1
Yeah.
that will change the grid into the next regulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where everyone lands is yet to be seen, but Christian is the first chip to fall.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us expected
Yeah.
it.
Monumental shifts. I think Red Bull is going to tank.
Yeah.
They're not going to be doing anything good.
It's
soon.
gonna take a while.
Yeah. And we'll see where Christian ends up.
Yeah.
And we'll see where Max ends up.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to know where Max is by the summer break?
I mean,
If he was annoyed with that press conference at Silverstone, he is going to be swarmed with 10 times more press.
when you're
Now-
forced to talk about Christian and not George,
Yeah.
this is a different scenario with all of the media just harassing you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So we'll see.
it's silly season. And what was the statistic? Like the 2024 or 23 season was the first season that was the exact mirror image of the season before.
Like there was no new drivers.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then the next season was like the most wild
Biggest
change.
shakeup. Yeah. Tons of 6 new drivers.
Yeah. And it's like, as we roll into this next regulation, there's going to be more of that because now we're going to see who's the fastest in the new regs. And then those seats are going to become really appetizing. What team has the most potential to continue up? And
Yeah. And
gonna
I
be
don't
crazy.
think, and now that Christian has left, and AJ Newey has already left, I don't think Red Bull has a good chance with the new power unit too.
Yeah.
High risk that they're not going to get the Ford power unit right off the bat. So Max is like, I am going to go with Mercedes.
Yeah.
They own their own power unit. They're going to know what to do.
So,
You know what I mean?
Yeah. and
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because it just reminded me. One of the things that I read, and I'm not sure if this is factual, so you guys can fact check me in the chat if you'd like. But one of the things that I read was that Christian had been told by Austria that he was not to make any announcements and to keep it quiet. And then he held a meeting this morning with the entire staff at
Yeah.
Milton Keynes and gave a speech saying that like he was grateful for his time and whatever, and that he was being let go. So he fully disregarded what was told to him by the board, which if I were him, I would do the same thing.
I don't get it.
They basically told him like, don't say anything. You've been let go.
Oh, you think they told him in Austria?
Yeah. Like you're not allowed to say anything.
Oh, I thought they told
And then-
him some sort of secret about the Ford power unit.
No. But,
And I was
but
like, he
here's,
should have given that away in the press conference.
but here's the reason why I think that they told him to be quiet is because of the Ford presence. Like this is a new partnership. And they signed a contract with a team that had won 4 championships.
Lost one race?
Yeah, team boss is just like looking like a baller. Like Max
the rock
is,
stars on the grid.
Yeah, Max is your world championship driver. He's got a contract for
Honestly,
8 years.
most recognizable logo.
Right.
It's crazy.
And now all of a sudden it's all up in smoke. And you're like, well, crap.
Yeah.
What did we sign on
Ford
for?
is a little worried right now.
And now Red Bull's wishing they sold to Porsche because if this had all gone down under the Porsche banner, it would have been probably a lot different.
What do you think happens to Racing Bulls? When is the FIA going to get rid of the Red Bull 2-team thing?
Well, that's going to be another part of this.
I made that comment today. When we were, because all my friends and coworkers had been talking about it all day long.
Yeah.
And I did say, I was like, shoot, what if Red Bull gets, they move their team to Racing Bulls? That's the main team now. And they sell off Red Bull and Porsche buys it. And then we have Porsche on the grid.
I mean, let's go. First of all, let's go.
That's my dream scenario.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Ricciardo is the driver for both of the cars.
You and Daniel. he's said it. He's done.
Yeah.
Even though I still wait to see what the driver announcement is before I believe Daniel.
It's just hard to forget about those people that you've loved. That have meant so dearly to you.
Turn around every now and then I get a little bit tired and that never comes. Yeah, you're right. That one worked too. That is a good song for Daniel as well. But I think that here's the thing that's like Christian, his charisma is on another level. His character is another level, right? Laurent, I like the guy. Alan Permain, like these guys. Christian is a force. And so when the FIA goes, Red Bull can't have two teams. Christian goes, we don't even benefit from having two teams. They're separate
No,
teams.
you talk about like
Blah, blah,
politics,
blah.
mind games. And
He's
like,
the king.
Yeah, and
He's the
people
king.
either love him or hate him because of it.
Right.
Bringing pictures
Yeah.
to be like,
Then
yeah,
change your car, right? Like he's the king of diffuse,
Yeah.
right? And make it so, it's not a big deal.
Sergio Perez says your car's undrivable, and
Yeah.
it's like we believe him now.
Yeah.
Christian
Toto was right.
gaslighting the world, and we were gaslit. I fell right in that. And I was like, yeah, screw Toto.
Yeah. Toto, you idiot.
The charisma of just being like, change your car. It's like, oh, I love this guy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's kind of part of it, right? I think that we could see Visa Cash App having to be forced to be a different team
Please sever the ties.
because Christian is gone. Red Bull's like hand as a company is going to shift. I like Laurent, I like Alan Permain, and I don't want to assume that they can't do it, but Christian was another level of suave businessman.
Yeah.
This is going to be really hard to match that energy.
Yeah.
So if those types of things come up in a, voting scenario, it's going to be tough.
Get rid of the sister team. Get rid of the feeder team that is in F1 with the two rookie drivers. They're great drivers, but now it's like now they don't even have a team principal that they started out the year with.
Right.
With two rookie drivers. Gosh, just get rid of the team.
Yeah.
And let a real team
This is
come
brutal for Visa, actually.
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, I guess it shouldn't surprise me that like Laurent Mekies is the one who has the faster car. So the board was like, you're the new one. You're the new guy.
Yeah, yeah.
You've outdeveloped Red Bull with no budget. So he does look like a king right now. But at the same time, that's, you get him in the same room as Toto. Do you think he's going to go toe to toe?
Toe to toe to toe
With
toe.
Toto?
You gonna go toe to toe to Toto?
I hate myself for this.
But
okay?
that makes sense. He's gonna go toe to toe to Toto.
The sentences that shouldn't make sense in any other context, but it does in this one. So that
What is the appeal of going to a sinking, burning ship when your ship is sailing so far ahead?
I mean, it's the same.
Why go to Red Bull when you're in Racing Bulls having fun and outperforming the bigger team?
I mean, but think about it this way: these are competitive people, and
Keep competing and winning.
And you like NBA.
Yeah.
But imagine being the shot clock's winding down, the clock is going down.
Yeah.
And you want the ball. You want the opportunity to shoot the 3-point, win the game. You don't want someone else on your team to do it. You want that pressure.
This Laurent guy.
Does
he have an ego where he's like, oh, I could take this dumpster fire and put it out? I don't think so. That's crazy. Maybe
mean,
he does.
There is
He
definitely
used to be a
fire.
Backstreet Boy.
My fire, dumpster, fire.
He loves a good dumpster fire.
He's got songs
Get his
all about
grubby little hands all over that trash pile.
So
Fix
good.
it up.
So good.
Okay.
So, but you guys have been popping off in the chat. Ryan says, I have a hard time seeing Ferrari wanting him. I also think he needs a few seasons off to get the stink of the last few years off of him. That's a good point.
Just rub some ginger on it.
Yeah. Spice. Ginger spice. Jerry Hallowell.
Gotta refresh your palate with that ginger.
Oh, man. And I don't know if you guys saw that post, but it cracked me up with the Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you relate to the teen world. That's how you relate to pop culture in LA.
Husband of Spice Girl Jerry Hallowell and Netflix star loses his job as a Red Bull racing guy.
As like a guy who manages a car.
Like, what?
Yeah.
That's the headline? Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. You did him dirty, Hollywood Reporter.
There were some other ones they turned down. They're like, Ginger Spice's husband loses job. That was the first one they
That was
went
first
through.
iteration.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he's also on Drive to Survive. Put that he's a
Yeah, put
Netflix
that in
star.
there, yeah.
He's independently famous. He has that Netflix thing.
Subtitle.
Make sure it's in
Spice
there.
Girls reunite.
That is such a tabloid. Then the positive is like underneath it. That's really
Spice
funny.
Girls play O2 Arena in London.
For F-175.
So good. Yeah, that's amazing.
So good. But yeah, man. Anyways, so much to speculate. So much going on.
We're going to have a lot of fun thinking about this over the next few weeks and months.
And we'll see it
until
unfold.
we see where all the cards fall. Yeah.
Let's for those of you in the chat and listening, do us a favor, write down the predictions that Red Flags has right now, as well as ours. And this is how we're gonna settle the beef.
And then we'll see how the dominoes fall like a house of cards.
Like a
Checkmate.
like a house of red flag cards. Not sure that makes tons of sense.
Doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to.
We're the fast ones.
just
Fast and loose.
It has to go down smooth.
Fast and loose and going down smooth.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning into KNX 1070.
Thanks for joining us on this emergency episode. Now it's time for After Hours with the Fast Ones. Goes down smooth. People in the chat, tell us what's keeping you up tonight.
Wash your sheets. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe. But see ya. Christian. Oh, that's right. This is a good thing. We will both be out of town on Monday, so no episode on Monday. But keep Christian in your prayers. Thoughts and prayers to Ginger Spice. And yeah, Red Bull. We'll see how you go.